Namaste everyone. I know it has been quite a long time since I uploaded videos. One reason why I stopped making videos is it's very difficult for me to talk to a camera. My thoughts and words, they don't flow that freely when there is nobody sitting in front and I'm just talking to a camera. Anyway, now that I'm talking, let me say something. There seems to be a very fundamental notion in spiritual seekers and actually everyone in general that what we are all seeking is answers. What we are seeking is to know why we are here and what is the purpose of life and some such thing. But these are actually very loaded questions, meaning they already assume something very, very fundamentally. When we ask such questions, when we assume that some answer will fulfill us, we are already assuming that mind is the pinnacle of life. We are already assuming that some explanation will fulfill us, which inherently means that mind will fulfill us. See, if you see how human beings' pursuit started, how they started seeking, now we looked around us, we have a certain direct experience of the world. We have some direct sensory experience of the world, but that experience seemed inadequate, it seemed insufficient. And because it seemed insufficient, we started seeking something. We started with some direct experience. We have some direct experience of the world. You may call it superficial or whatever, but it is a direct experience of the world. You can see, you can hear, you can experience the world in many ways, directly. And that direct experience seemed inadequate, and therefore naturally it means that what a human being is seeking is a much more intimate experience of life. What we are actually seeking is a much profound and much deeper experience of life. But somehow, after we started seeking, once we realized that our experience of life is inadequate, we somehow started settling for explanations, and that is amusing. When our quest begins with an inadequacy of experience, it cannot end with explanations. The only thing that it can end with is a more direct experience of life. Even if you look at the works of prominent scientists, I have read a few, you will see in their books that ultimately they will say that to find out why we are here is the ultimate quest of mankind and this and that. So ultimately they think that, some explanation, some sentence, some description will fulfill human beings. This is something like this. A man went to a 5-star hotel because everybody was talking about it a lot, so he wanted to check out what the hype is all about. So he went to that 5-star hotel, he ordered some starters, he ordered a soup, and he started eating that. He ate his starters, he drank his soup, and then he asked for the menu again. And he went on checking the menu. And the waiter came to him once, he came to him twice, he came to him thrice, and he didn't order his main course. Half an hour passed, and then finally the waiter came to him and then said, "Sir, you have been seeing this menu for half an hour. Are you going to order your main course or not?" So the man said, "See, I don't have any more money to spare your luxurious hotel. I have already spent enough. But I want to have my money's worth. So your menu seems very descriptive and very, it's like a book. It's like a thick book. It has a lot of things in it. So let me at least read it and leave here knowledgeable, if not with my stomach filled." So in a way, that is what we are all doing with ourselves. For our starters, we are having some direct experience of the world, and instead of going for the actual main course, instead of actually filling our stomach with a much more deeper experience of life, much more direct encounter with life, we are just trying to fulfill ourselves with some knowledge, with some explanations. And now I know you will immediately ask, then how can we have that more direct experience of life? See, if something more than the mind has to happen to us, then naturally we should come to see that it is helpless in that regard. Mind can't help you in that regard. Whatever loyalty we have pledged to the mind presently, whatever faith that we have vested upon the mind presently, that has to be shattered in some way. Until you think the mind can help you, until you think that the mind can fulfill you or even lead you, guide you towards fulfillment, we will keep investing ourselves into the mind in some way or the other. So all our spiritual pursuit is finally to see more and more clearly that the mind can't help you. It is to make you loosen your grip upon the psychological faculty. You are presently holding on to it so tightly, so whatever problem comes to you, whatever question is posed, whatever sense of incompleteness comes to you, you immediately look towards the mind to give you an answer and fulfill you in some way. So when that kind of loyalty is there, that kind of faith has been put on the mind, that has to be shaken up, that has to be challenged, and that has to be loosened for something more to happen. See, if you don't acknowledge this, then spirituality will also become another kind of gathering of knowledge. You will just gather more and more explanations, and you will just go on reading the menu and think that your stomach is getting fulfilled. See, it doesn't matter what it is, Jnana Yoga or Bhakti Yoga or what yoga you are doing. The moment we start using whatever we read, whatever it could be, God or Atman or self or whatever we have read, if we start using those words as explanations, we have fallen into the trap of the mind again. See, you can see people telling so casually that God created this whole universe, God created us and this and that. They're saying it as casually as saying my mother made samosa today. There is at least when you say my mother made samosa today, there is a direct experience behind it. That sentence is valid sentence. But if you assume knowledgeability with the entire universe and about yourself, I know how I was created, who created me, who created the universe, what is my purpose? My purpose is to go back to God and this and that. The moment you start using these words as explanations, as descriptions, you are satisfying yourself for some psychological answer, which means you are settling yourself within the mind itself again. These people in the path of devotion, they think they are an exception for all this and they can do whatever they want and God will take care of them. That is just another trick the mind is playing, and that is why God has been one of the very ultimate weapons of mind against mankind, because it makes you think that you can go after explanations and you are allowed to do it. But if you look at the devotees, there are any number of stories. If you look at them, do you see them as someone enjoying the certainty of some conclusions? Do you see them explaining things away using God? They are in a state of utter psychological uncertainty. They are not explaining away anything. They are just using certain names and forms to remind them that their mind is presently helpless. Their mind can't fulfill them. So when they utter those names, they are actually getting torn apart. That glue, that loyalty that they presently have to their mind, it is being ripped, and that is what shows outwardly as that tears and that choking and that intensity. They are not finding some solace and some comfort in by explaining things, saying God created me and universe. So it doesn't matter what yoga it is, what path it is. If the moment you are looking towards the mind to fulfill you in some way, and if you do Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga or whatever yoga in this way, you are just becoming more and more mental in the disguise of spirituality. So the purpose of all these spiritual paths is just to see very clearly, gracefully, not just because somebody said it. Now I am telling mind is helpless to show you a more direct experience of life doesn't mean you simply accept it. That won't do anything. If you use your intellect, if you use your emotions, you should use them to see this more and more clearly. You should personally come to see that yes, mind is helpless. It can't help me satiate my hunger for life. It can't. So it doesn't matter what great scriptures we have learnt, what great words or phrases we have learnt, or what gurus we have gone and learnt. All these things are not for us to assume knowledgeability and assert to others, this is like that and that is like this. Because the moment we assume knowledgeability with these existential things, which actually mind can't capture, then we are snuggling up within the mind. We are thinking that mind is fulfilling us in some way, and we are going into some kind of sleep within ourselves.